This time on the Platinum Project PlayStation 2, we have a brand new hunting ground for Platinum Games with the return of the carboot. And at a local game store, we hit the absolute motherlode. Folks, welcome back to another episode of the Platinum Project PlayStation 2. My challenge for 2024 is to try and find all 256 PAL release PlayStation 2 Platinum games. And today is a very exciting episode for many reasons. First of all, we are back hunting at the carboots. I genuinely think, fingers crossed, I'm going to be able to find some of these Platinum games at the carboot and hopefully score them for a bargain price. Secondly, in this episode, we find the single largest amount of PlayStation 2 Platinum games I have ever found. And lastly, you may see behind me it looks a little bit different. That's because I am 95% of the way through the reorganization of the games room, and I can safely say the Platinum Project PlayStation 2 is finally coming along. You can see here we have the near complete PlayStation 1 Platinum Collection, and down below we have what we have so far for the Platinum Project PlayStation 2. At the end of the last episode, we had found 118 PlayStation 2 Platinum games, which means there are still 138 to find, but it is looking good so far. These look absolutely amazing, all lined up with their black and silver spines. Fear not, I will be, of course, putting these in alphabetical order, and I am waiting for delivery of another shelf so we can separate these out. But the PlayStation 2 and the PlayStation 1 Platinum collections look absolutely amazing here on the shelves. Just before we head out on the hunt, I want to remind you folks, if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and please subscribe, as I put new videos out every Saturday live at 5, as well as bonus content throughout the week, and I really want you folks along for the ride. And if you ever miss an episode of the Platinum Project PlayStation 2, fear not, I'll link them all down below in a playlist. But unfortunately, to begin with this time, we are starting on somewhat of a sad note. All throughout the Platinum Project PlayStation 2, and indeed the PlayStation Platinum Project, I have tried to visit as many of the amazing independent gaming stores which we have in the UK as possible, but unfortunately these are slowly disappearing, and this is true of one of my very own local gaming stores here in the fine city of Norwich. That's because last month in March, Regen Gaming closed its doors for the final time. It has been a staple of the Norwich gaming scene since 2007, and it will be sorely missed. But I managed to pay one more visit as they were clearing stock to try and hunt for some Platinum games for the Platinum Project PlayStation 2. Here we go then folks, it is a sad day, as today marks my final trip to Regen Games here at Anglia Square in Norwich. But I'm hoping in this final trip to this long-standing game store that we can find a couple of Platinum games to cross off the list. Here's the thing, they are breaking down a lot of their stock before they go into storage, before they move into a brand new premises. And it is stock like this that they're trying to clear, the low-value PlayStation 2 games. So I'm really hoping I can find a couple of Platinum games here, because honestly, most stores want to get rid of these most of the time, and I can happily say we did manage to pick up 2 more games to cross off the list, even though it was a sad day. Here we are then, back in the games room from our final trip to Regen Games. But fear not folks, it is not all doom and gloom. They have a temporary premises just around the corner from their old store at Aladdin's Cave, and they'll be setting up, selling some amazing stuff there every Saturday. So if you are in the fine city of Norwich or want to travel down and visit, please pay them a visit and help them get set up in their new store. But even better than that, we have 2 brand new Platinum games to cross off the list. Our first game is this game right here, Final Fantasy X2. And it's exciting every time I cross off one of these Final Fantasy games, and even better, this is the final Final Fantasy game which I need to cross off the Platinum Project PlayStation 2. The second game we picked up from Regen Games is this game right here, SSX Tricky, an absolutely amazing snowboarding game from a golden age of extreme sports games. There was just so many good games around this time, and this honestly is one of the best of them. I was really happy to pay Regen one more trip. I wish them all the best in the future, and I cannot wait for them to open a brand new store. But as is life, as one door closes, another one opens, and this month saw the return of my local carboot. And there is no better place to hunt for platinum games than your local car boot. That's because more often than not, boxes like this will be rammed with platinum games and just cheap games. Most of the time at the car boots, you can pick up games for 50p, a pound, and with the average price of platinum games only being about £3 or £4, even if you get them for a pound, it's a really good deal. But this is the thing I really love about the car boots. You never know what you're going to find. You just have to dig in these boxes, as they could literally have anything inside them. But we did find some platinum games. So we have Splinter Cell and Shrek 2, which unfortunately we do already have for the Platinum Project PlayStation 2. 007 Nightfire we already have. Finding Nemo, Lego Star Wars. We are going to be finding a lot of these games that we already own. That's because we are in the high numbers now, and the further we get in the Platinum Project, the harder it's going to get. But the hunt continues, because at the end of the day, if I can cross one off, it's a good day. A little further on, and I did manage to find a platinum I needed, but at first I was very confused, because at the car boot I always have the list of what platinum games I'm still looking for, and for some reason I couldn't find this game, The Incredibles, on the list. And also I hadn't crossed it off, so I was starting to wonder if this game was missing from the list. But more on that when we get back to the games room. On to the second week of the car boot, and once again there was more platinum games. Like I said, it's a great place to pick these games up super duper cheap, especially sports games such as FIFA Street, which is a surprisingly hard game to find, which made this all the much worse. It was an empty case, because the first rule of car boots is you always check the disc. They could be scratched, or even worse, they could just be missing. And this right here is exactly why I always carry my platinum list with me. It is so hard to remember which games you have, especially like games like Splinter Cell, where there's multiple entries in the series, and it's just hard to remember which ones you have. And here's the thing, at the same time I am filming with my phone, which has the list on. Yes, I could have a physical list, but I would look a bit crazy walking around with a massive list of games, and honestly I'd probably just look like a reseller. And I very nearly missed this one here, Conflict Desert Storm 2. I very nearly missed it, but thankfully I did manage to pick that one up for just £1, which goes to show you can get some absolute bargains at the car boots. Even if we're not talking about platinum games, gaming in general, car boots are where I have built at least 50% of my game collection, either by buying cheap games to add to my collection, or by buying games cheap to flip into CEX. Honestly, if you're a game collector and you're not going to the car boots, you are not doing it right. There is no better place, not just to build a game collection, but also to help fund a game collection than the car boot. And honestly, there is nothing other than a car boot that would get me out of bed this early on a Sunday. But I'm happy to say we have 2 games to cross off the list. So let's take it back to the games room and cross these platinum games off that list. Here we are then, back in the games room for the first 2 car boots of the 2024 season. And we have 2 games to cross off the list. As such, as because this game right here, The Incredibles, is not on my list. As I've said all along, to the best of my knowledge, this is the complete list of every PlayStation 2 platinum game released here in the PAL region. But this is nothing but a learning curve, and this time we've learned this game is also part of that list. So far we've managed to pick up 1 platinum game from each car boot we have been to, and in our second car boot we picked up this game right here, Conflict Desert Storm 2. Now here's the thing, you can get some absolute bargains at the car boot. More often than not, you will be able to pick these games up for 50p or a pound. Yes, this game is a super cheap one, but honestly for £1, I'm just happy to cross it off the list. I have said from the start of this challenge, I cannot do this without your help. And it has blown me away how many people have reached out to either sell, trade or donate games for this amazing challenge. And we have 3 more packages to open this time. If you don't see your package, fear not, it will be coming up in a future episode. And thank you so much to everyone who's reached out so far. Let's jump into this first package right here then, and this one does have a note, and I just love it when people attach notes to these. So it says, glad to help with the Platinum Project PS2, love the channel, thank you, hope you enjoy the extras, big love, G-Dog. So G-Dog reached out to me over on Instagram and said he had a platinum game for me to cross off the list, and has also included some other bits in here. So first off, the platinum game we have is one of my personal favourites, Tony Hawk's free. I absolutely love this game. This was such a massive leap from Tony Hawk's 2 on the PlayStation 1 and an absolutely fantastic game to cross off the list. But like the note said, that's not all. We have some other gifts in here from G-Dog. And first off, we have the absolutely incredible PlayStation 2 remote. That's because I'm sure for most people, the PlayStation 2 was their first DVD player. It was an affordable way to own a DVD player. And honestly, this was the best way to watch your DVDs. If you've been watching the channel for a while, you'd have seen that recently I did an episode about my love for PlayStation demos, and we have some PlayStation demos in here. So firstly, we have one of my favourite demos of all time for the PS1, Populous: The Beginning. An absolutely incredible game, and a game which took an entire memory card to save. Absolutely crazy. Then we have one of the first demos I ever played, MTV Snowboarding, Toy Story 2 and V-Rally 2. Fantastic games. Then we have some demos for the PlayStation 2. So, strange ones here, F1 2002 and Britney's Dance Beat. Crazy. And then Colin McRae 04 and 14 other big demos, including Zone of the Enders, the second runner. Probably would have gone with that one. And then on this game, a game I don't think I've ever played, Shinobi, and never played this on the PlayStation 2. Be kind of interested to check this one out. And that's what I love about these demos. You get to check out games which you may have never played before. Next up, we have a package from a viewer of the channel called Marcin. I hope I pronounced that properly. I'm not showing the envelope just because it had a lot of addresses on there. And the first game we have to cross off the list is Tony Hawk's Underground. For me, I think this was a massive turning point of the Tony Hawk's franchise. For the better, this game absolutely revolutionised the series. And honestly, other than Tony Hawk's 2, I think this game has the very best soundtrack. And that is saying something. Our second donation from Marcin is this game right here, Juiced. Now, I'm a massive fan of racing games, and honestly, if you've never played this game, I think this is a massive hidden gem. It is definitely one that is worth checking out and a great one to cross off the list. We have one more platinum game in this package. It is not a platinum game for the PlayStation 2. It's not even a platinum game for the PlayStation 1. It is Need for Speed Undercover for the PSP. Yes, there was a platinum range for the PSP. Now, when it comes to the PSP, I'm a massive fan of this console. I think it was so ahead of its time. It was essentially like having a portable PlayStation in your pocket, and who knows, maybe in the future we might be doing a platinum project PSP. Our final piece of viewer mail this time is from a viewer of the channel, Sean, who has gone absolutely above and beyond. This one absolutely blew me away. He sent me a message saying he had sourced 2 games which I needed for the Platinum Project PlayStation 2. Now, one of these is incredibly hard to find. As I've said all along, I'm aiming for the complete PAL PlayStation 2 Platinum Collection. Now, that means, yes, some of these games, most of these games were released in the UK. Most were released in Europe, some were even released in Australia, but some of these were specific to certain countries. And in here we have one of those games. The first game that Sean sent us was the absolutely incredible Grand Theft Auto Liberty City Stories. Now, I originally played this back on the PSP and it absolutely blew my mind, and I cannot wait to jump into this one on the PlayStation 2. Now, of course, this game did get a sequel. And the problem is, this sequel was only available in one country. And I cannot believe that Sean managed to source a copy of Grand Theft Auto Vice City Stories. This is a very, very hard to find platinum game. Honestly, Sean, I am blown away by your generosity, and thank you so much to you and everyone else who has sent games in for the Platinum Project PlayStation 2. But of course, the Platinum Project PlayStation 2 isn't just about collecting games, it is about playing games. Whether for the first time ever or for the first time in years, and today we're going to find out if I can still cut it in Tony Hawk's Underground. Now, the more observant of you may have realised I have done a bit of a switch reverse and gone onto Tony Hawk's 3. And first things first, nothing brings me more pain than to do this. To mute that soundtrack, because obviously this has one of the best soundtracks of all time, but unfortunately it will get muted in this video. and we're going to jump straight into a level here. So if you haven't played this game for some random reason over the years, essentially we have 2 minutes to rack up the highest score as possible and to try and do as many of the objectives in this level as possible. So let's see how I do in this 2 minutes. Let's jump straight in, and absolutely perfect start right there. Here's the thing, I kind of played Tony Hawk's a lot back in the PS1 days. I kind of fell off a little bit on the PS2 days, but I used to be a lot better at this game. I have recently been playing it a bit on the Switch because I got the Tony Hawk's 1 and 2 collection on there. But I obviously kind of forgot mainly how to play this game, and even worse, I forgot what most of the objectives are on this level. So I think, no, we can't see the objectives. I think we're on the free skate, so it is just all about getting the biggest score possible. And honestly, I kind of forgot how hard this game is. I think it's one of those games, once you're good at it back in the day, you kind of stay good at it. And it's one of those ones where you easily lose your kind of skills, because it is all about skills. At the end of the day, it's trying to work out how many tricks you can put together without losing your balance, which does happen pretty quickly. But it's one of those games that normally you do pick it up again quite easily. Like, I'm doing better now than I was 2 minutes ago, he says, before he falls off the board. But here's the thing, this is what I loved about the Tony Hawk series. It was such an easy kind of pick up and play game. Like, I've been back in for less than a minute and I'm kind of starting to get the tricks back in, because it was just, you know, skateboarding is hard. If you've ever tried to skateboard before, you will probably know, yes, you are going to fall over. Yes, it's going to be painful, but you eventually do get better. And the same can be said of the Tony Hawk's games. When you first start, they are quite difficult games, but you can easily pick up and play them, and that's what I loved about this franchise. You could sit around with a few mates, play a few games of Skate, easily one of the best multiplayer games of all time. Just pass the control around and just try and beat each other's scores. And that's what it was all about, the kind of competition in games like this. And I really sorely miss the Tony Hawk's games. I really hope in the future, especially with the kind of popularity of the remake of Tony Hawk's 1 and 2, we get a fresh game, and hopefully I'll get a lot better at it. Of course, when it comes to hunting for platinum games, you know I'm going to be hitting up as many CEX stores as possible. And just down the road from the fine city of Norwich is Thetford. Now, this is a fairly small CEX store, but more often than not, they have a very, very good PlayStation 2 section. Now, this is for a multitude of reasons. Firstly, it's just a really good selection of games. Secondly, they have really good quality control. 9 times out of 10, these games are boxed and complete, and more importantly, the platinum games have the correct disc. Now, here is one other advantage of hunting for platinum games here in Thetford. More often than not, the cheap PlayStation 2 games are in the cases on the shelves here. So, for myself, when I'm looking for platinum games, I don't have to wait to go up to the shelf to find out if it has the platinum disc. I can check right here, which just cuts out a little bit of the legwork, both for myself and for the CEX staff. But there is one issue with hunting for PlayStation 2 Platinum games in CEX. I am slowly finding less and less of these games with every CEX store I visit, and it's normally the same games you see over and over again. Games like The Getaway, Call of Duty, some of the Harry Potter games, and a lot of the time it is some of these sports games which I am looking for. This is a game I see all the time, Jak and Daxter, but I never seem to find it with the manual, and honestly, it's such a common game. I will wait until I can find a copy which is complete with the manual, and so far I'm not having much luck here in Thetford. Much like the carboots, when you are looking for platinum games in CEX, you have no idea what to expect. Now, normally when you go game shopping in CEX, you can check online to check the app to see what games are in stock. But CEX doesn't differentiate between the platinum release and the black label release for PlayStation 2 games. So a game may be in stock, but you have no idea of knowing if it's going to be the platinum version of the game. And here's the thing, this is why I'm trying to hit up as many CEX stores as possible, because the wider I cast my net, the more likely I'm to find games such as this one, Tomb Raider and the Angel of Darkness. It may only be one game, but at least it's another game to cross off the list, and honestly,
if this is what it's going to be, maybe I'll just end up finding one game in every CX store I go to. It just means I'll have to visit a lot more stores. Which is why I've decided to revisit my local CEX store here in the fine city of Norwich. And much like Thetford, they normally have a very good selection of PlayStation 2 games. Now, I say PlayStation 2 games, they also have a fairly good selection of PlayStation 2 Platinum games. But the problem is, it isn't looking like they have any PlayStation 2 games which I specifically need. You know, it can be the best selection of all time, but with this point of the Platinum Project PlayStation 2, we have over 100 games, and most of the time, we are not going to find anything we need. Like, there's some really great, like absolutely amazing Platinum titles here. Some of the very best games available for the console. But I've already got these, and it's only going to get harder from here. I've said it multiple times this episode, but the further we get into the Platinum Project PlayStation 2, the harder it gets. We will start to knock all of these common titles off. Even some of the uncommon. It's going to become the rare and the very rare. And also, I hate to think about it, but the games which CEX don't sell. And these are the ones that are going to get very expensive. The games I have to import, or the games I have to pay eBay prices for, but at the end of the day, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to complete the Platinum Project PlayStation 2.
Here we are then back in the games room from visiting not one but two CEX stores, and somewhat ironically we have two games to cross off the list. We are getting deeper and deeper into the Platinum Project PlayStation 2, and it's going to get harder and harder to find these games, but honestly, I did not think it was going to get this hard this early. I didn't manage to find any games which I needed in my local CEX store, but fear not, we still have two to cross off the list. When it comes to the Platinum Project PlayStation 2, there is one genre of games which are super annoying to find. It is the shovelware games, and more specifically, the football games. These are super cheap. This game here, Pro Evolution Soccer, is only 50p, but the hardest part is finding these complete with the manual and more importantly the Platinum disc, but thankfully it's another one of the many Pro Evo games to cross off the list. Our second and only other game which we found in CEX, this time in Thetford, is Tomb Raider and the Angel of Darkness. And this is one you do not see very often, or so I thought. When I was organising my games room, I found another copy of Tomb Raider and the Angel of Darkness, but all throughout the Platinum Project PlayStation 2, I'm going to get doubles, whether I'm buying bundles or just finding them randomly in the games room. And remember, at the end of the Platinum Project PlayStation 2, I'm going to be giving away this massive bundle of doubles to one of you very lucky viewers.
Our final stop this time is Last Level Games here in the fine city of Norwich. Now, you may be wondering why we're visiting this store again. So we visited this store in the very first episode of the Platinum Project PlayStation 2. That's because recently the owner of the store reached out to me and said he had some Platinum games in storage and asked if there was any games which I still needed off my list. Now, this is why it's super important to build relationships and support your local independent gaming stores. This is going to be the motherlode of Platinum games. I am amazed how many games that Last Level have helped me cross off my list. It is absolutely mind-blowing that at this stage of the Platinum Project, this has absolutely been a game changer. This is a massive amount to cross off the list, and I'm eternally grateful for Last Level Games for helping me out. So please make the trip to Norwich and visit their store. But of course, while I'm here, I might as well check the shelves to see if there's any other games we are missing. And starting off here in the Glass Cabinet of Dreams. This is because this is where Last Level Games keep their higher value PlayStation 2 games. And it's quite interesting to see which Platinum games are in here which command a higher price. And thankfully, I already have most of these crossed off the list. But it's not just high-end PlayStation 2 games that Last Level Games stock. They have an absolutely massive selection of some of the more common and slightly uncommon PlayStation 2 games. And of course, I had to check through these to see if there's any other games which had come in recently which I needed for the Platinum Project PlayStation 2. That's because with any independent gaming store, especially Last Level Games, they are always getting in new stock. That is why I try and visit Last Level Games as often as possible, as you never know what's going to get traded into the store. And this is one thing I absolutely love about Last Level Games. They are very active on social media. They will always post up when they have something cool come in, and I've seen some absolutely crazy things on their social media. They have had the likes of boxed Virtual Boys, Panasonic Cubes, and just some of the rarest video games I've ever seen. And like I said, Last Level Games had done me a massive favour by going into their storage unit and finding me some Platinum games which I needed for the Platinum Project PlayStation 2. And even better, I managed to find some more games I needed right here on the shelf. But let's get into it, the Motherlode. Check out this absolute stack of games which Last Level Games have found in their storage for me to cross off the list. This right here is an absolute game changer, and this is the Motherlode. I am absolutely speechless. I am blown away by the support of Last Level Games. I cannot believe at this point of the Platinum Project PlayStation 2, we have an entire carrier bag of games to cross off the list. Let's go through these. This is absolutely mind-blowing. Check out this stack from Last Level Games. We have 21 games to cross off the list. This is absolutely mind-blowing that at this stage of the Platinum Project PlayStation 2 we can cross 21 games off from just one store. So thank you so much to Last Level Games for this amazing help. Let's go through this veritable stack of games then one by one. Now these all vary in value, so we're starting off with some of the low value games like Rugby 2004 for just 50p, but like I said, these are the hard games to find, the shovelware, the sports games that no one wanted. Games like MotoGP 4 for just £1. FIFA 07, it's another one to cross off the list. Another copy of Pro Evo because honestly, this one was an upgrade and for 50p, rude not to. Smuggler's Run, an absolutely fantastic hidden gem maybe from like Rockstar. Another football game, this is Football 2002. Again, there's a lot of this is football games. No, surprisingly expensive here, Madagascar, £4. Last Level did some absolutely solid prices on these. It just surprised me that this game commands £4, but Colin McRae free, £1.50. F106, one of the hardest Platinum games to find. This is a surprisingly rare game. Another Final Fantasy, £3, absolute bargain price for that one. We are really getting through the WWE games. As a massive wrestling fan, I'm super happy to cross that one off the list, as well as Burnout, one of my favourite racing games of all time. SmackDown vs Raw 2007, the first game I ever played on Xbox 360. Fun fact there, so push them there. Toka Race Driver, £1.50. Like I said, this is a massive bundle. Just so many good games, including SmackDown Here Comes the Pain. Absolute banger. Shame about the cover these days. One of the Crash Team Racing games. Really good game. I know overly shadowed by Mario Kart, still a fantastic game. Nothing overshadows this. One of the best games of all time. Fight me. Much better than this one. Cars. That's what I like about the PS2. You can buy Burnout free for £6 or Cars for £4. I know what I'd do. As well as Midnight Club 2, £3.50. Again, absolute banger. I have no idea why I picked this one up. I have this multiple times, but my mistake is your game. This one will again be going into that doubles pile. I cannot believe that at this stage of the Platinum Project PlayStation 2, I can stand here and say today we are crossing 32 games off the list. It absolutely blows my mind. And I just wouldn't be able to do this without the support of independent gaming stores, you viewers. It's really exciting now that I can start to hit up carboots and find these games, even more CEX stores. I'm going to be travelling a lot more as we have 106 games left to find. But honestly, I think days like this is probably our last time we are going to find games in this number. As we come down to that last 106, it's only going to get harder. So let's cross these off the list, and then
Before the next episode, I'm going to organise all these games into alphabetical order, get some more shelves up, and by the next time you see, this collection is going to be absolutely mind-blowing.
This is a massive milestone for the Platinum Project PlayStation 2. 32 games to cross off the list. The shelves are coming together. We have never been in a better position, but I think the hard work definitely starts here.
There we have it then, folks. Another episode of the Platinum Project PlayStation 2 and the most games we have ever crossed off the list. And it is getting interesting now, folks. We have just 106 games to find. And trust me, it's only to get crazier. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe. Until next time, let the games begin. See you all soon.